Yeah,
Right.
I'd give it probably a minute. There's a lot of people adding things last minute, so
All right. I'll do the spiel, and then I think we've got some new faces as well. So maybe we can do some instructions, and then people can join. And so yeah, welcome to everyone to today's Helm developer call. Today is April the 10th, 2025. And please note this call is recorded and falls under the CNCF's code of conduct. So
Yeah,
please be polite.
sapevo che scolda da...
Sorry. If you don't want to be in camera as well, then yeah, obviously the call's recorded. So turn your camera off. All right. As Robert was just saying, I think we've got some late things going into the agenda, but I do think there might be a couple of new faces on the call. If anybody wants to say hello.
Hi, I'm Danilo, developer, Helm user, work on the Platform One project, and nice to meet you all. I think George is the only one that really knows me a bit. Been pestering him quite a bit.
I use Platform One. I might want to hit you up sometime.
Absolutely. It will be specifically, I'm on the Big Bang value stream, so we're big Helm enjoyer and users.
Thank you. Yeah, and welcome.
I'm Jesse. I'm a developer from a company called Camunda. We're a big user of the Bitnami charts, and we have a chart that combines a couple of those as well as puts our software on top. I've been to maybe 2 or 3 developer calls at this point, but it's been a few weeks. And I've also been pestering George, just in a different way.
Yeah, no, I very anticipate the pestering. It's good. So we get things done. So thank you for the pestering. All right.
Actually.
Sorry, go.
I think I volunteered to take notes today, but I showed up late, so I don't know if somebody else grabbed that.
We've just been doing intros at the moment, so there's probably been not much to take notes on. But if you want to, it's really kind of just
okay, yeah, I'll pop in there and type what I can.
Yep.
And then Jesse, you mentioned the Bitnami charts, and Evans kind of shared that with me, so of stuff to look at for library charts for Helm wise. So maybe I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, sure.
To go over that at some point. All right. Go ahead, George.
Awesome. All right. So we'll move on to the agenda. First up, Matt has an announcement for the security release.
Yeah, so yesterday we had our normal release schedule, the hopefully last patch release before the next minor on Helm 3. And instead of being a normal patch release, it ended up being a security release because in the last week and a half, we got some reports of some CVEs, and there are a couple of them that are fixed. Turns out that the same change could actually fix both of them in its current form for its most minimal fix. And so there is a CVE fix out there. We did verify it. We don't know of any known use cases in the wild. You'd have to craft some malicious stuff in order to get to these, which is why it probably hasn't been caught before. But thank you to Jacob, I think is his name, who found and reported those. He was actually the one who found and reported some of our previous ones. So.
Yeah, because I'm familiar with the details, we added a maximum size for Helm archives, which was 100 megabytes, and a maximum file size within the archives, which was 5 megabytes. These are obviously tunables, and I don't think there's a use case for files greater than these sizes in Helm chart, which tend to be measured in kilobytes. But if someone does know of a reason why they would want multiple megabyte files in a Helm chart, then reach out and we can discuss bumping those limits.
Yeah, and I did go looking around to see if I could find any data or extremely large charts to see what those large charts would be. I did spend time looking, and I didn't find anything that came close to the limits we had that were set in here. So hopefully nobody even experiences any issues.
That's the goal, as always. Thank you, Matt. And thank you for also organizing the patch and security release.
Matt, can I ask you that? I was getting into the notes and I kind of missed where you're going with that. So if maybe you could just type that in for your part.
Yeah, I'll put something in there.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll move on to discussion. Evans, a nudge for Fix take ownership for custom resources PR.
Yeah, it's a nudge. Nothing much to add there. I think that some tests were requested, some were added. If more coverage is needed, then it would be good to know if it's insufficient.
Yeah, I commented on this one. I can take it in the next Helm afternoon. I have this one and another one, but I can look at it.
Thanks, Robert.
Is there another maintainer to approve? I believe this is a large. Yeah, we probably. If there's another maintainer to take a look as well, because it's a large, so I can't just rail this one in.
This one already has one approval on it, it looks like, and you were the one who rejected it last time with comments.
Never mind. I didn't see that. I'm on it. Yeah, I'll shut up now.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Robert. We will move on to HIP review unless there is any late discussion items that want to be added. I might actually, is it okay, Matt, to ask about Helm 3.18 and what our intentions are for changes there?
So, yeah, I mean, the general intention for 3.18 is any bug fixes and bump the Kubernetes versions there. The new features that have been going into Helm 4 won't be pulled over. Those are in Helm 4. It's a fair amount of work to pull those over and to review them, which means we get less done in Helm 4. So 3.18 should be a fairly small bump with just Kubernetes packages and some bug fixes.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're limiting features for Helm 3.18, or excluding features from 3.18 release, with the eyes on Helm 4.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. All right. HIP review. Evans install ordering HIP.
Yeah, thanks. So I added a few questions to guide sort of my ask of what we would need to sort of discuss in this meeting, and the details are in the HIP itself. And the questions here sort of direct me in what that in prioritizing what needs to be looked at, what needs to be what decisions that we make. So the HIP proposes ordering resources, how they get installed, ordering charts and subcharts and resources within the same chart. Basically, I'd like to know whether installing subcharts and dependencies in a specific order is something that we want. If yes or no, basically that's what I'm looking for. Installing resources in a particular order within one chart is something that we want, yes or no. And an ability to specify a custom way of saying this resource is ready, to sort of guide orchestrating moving on.
So when we deal with charts and subcharts, right, today they're all pulled into the same sandbox and pushed up together. This doesn't change that, does it? It just provides layered ordering?
Yes, so that question is more around how we define that. Like, it's a change in the chart.yaml. And yes, it doesn't change that. It changes how we sort of those get applied along the way.
Well, but yeah, so let's say you've got layers, right? You've got a bunch of layers, and a subchart defines layers, and then a parent chart defines layers, right? And they use the same numbering sequence. Then say you've got layers 1, 2, and 3, and it goes in order one. Just for argument's sake, 1, 2, and 3 for ordering. Your subchart has 1, your parent chart has 1, your subchart has 2, your parent chart has 2. All the 1s will get sent together and weighted on. All the 2s will get sent together and weighted on. All the 3s will get sent together and weighted on, right? Which means you're not waiting for the full subchart to come up before the parent does the layerings, because it's all in one sandbox, right? So that behavior end up playing out when you end up doing some, that's kind of what I'm need to think through here. How is that part going to handle and work?
So the intention is to decouple that. So each chart will be sandboxed. So if there is one in subchart, the whole ordering will be done on that subchart and sent through the to Kubernetes API. Then the next subchart would be, Helm would reason around the second subchart, send that to the Kubernetes API, and the third chart, and then the parent API, and then the parent chart. So everything, all charts will be handled separately. There won't be any sort of share, there won't be any conflict.
So every chart is in its own sandbox.
Exactly.
And then within each chart, you have a layering of ordering of when things can go up, right?
Yes, so then if we want that, so that's the second question there. Now, if we want that and want to go ahead with that, then within the same chart, resources can have, there's layering within the same chart, and resources are tagged with specific layers. And if the layer is the same, then they're handled as, essentially the same ordering, and what have you. And if there's no weight whatsoever, those are grouped together and they would be installed at the end of everything else.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a fair amount of complexity in this particular one. Do we know who wants to write this work?
I'm open to that. Actually, I've started working on POC to sort of see whether what we have on paper is doable in real life, because it's a fair amount. There's some complexity there, and there'll be several iterations. I'm happy to pair with someone. I'm happy for someone to look at this.
Absolutely. The idea makes sense. I'll read it over and review it. The idea definitely makes sense. It adds a fair amount of complexity, and people, when those charts are installed, it's going to, of course, take longer the more of these features you take advantage of with the various API requests and wait and API requests and wait. There is a bit of complexity there. Breaking things into different sandboxes sounds fairly nice, quite frankly, because that has caused issues over time. Okay, yeah, I'll review it. The biggest thing is I see this as a big chunk of work. This would go into the next version of charts, and I need to finish up that work. So you've got a nice place to go. This should not go into the existing charts because there's so many breaking things.
Yeah, I was going to say similar. If you want to target charts v2, at least some of these features will be very difficult to implement. In particular, sandboxing subcharts would be tricky.
Yeah, I would put this into the V3 chart, the V3 charts. But this is the kind of thing that looks really nice for the V3 charts. I like it. In theory, now I asked who was going to write it because I've dealt with solving for packages and installs and things like that before. So I have an idea of what whoever it is going to get themselves into. So I'm happy to talk about it because it's not simple.
What did you got it?
Sorry?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy to make time for that, for sure. I wrote the HIP, and I've been really thinking about this a while, but anyone else can pick it up to write it. If it gets
I'm happy if you want to go after this one. Having worked on this stuff before, I'm happy if somebody else wants to do it.
Right.
1, 2, 3, not it. That's what Matt did.
Yeah.
I was going to say, please don't write your own set solver.
Okay, not going to.
All right, so to keep things moving, to keep an eye on the time, Danilo, sorry, I fell off looking at that one. The linting improvements.
Yes. Me and Daniel Pritchett, we wanted to suggest an improvement on the linting process, and understanding the fact that we're moving from Helm 3 to Helm 4. Before, we want to also mention that we are totally fine with instead of implementing in Helm 3, we can start the implementation in Helm 4. But what it is an improvement of linting, and specifically adding a configuration file that allow to specify in the beginning at least ignoring a certain type of errors, and then possibly expand that into more of a configuration of linting itself. This will be beneficial when linting large chart, especially to have subcharts and additional files added in that can cause errors and can break linting. At least we notice it when working on our project, and yeah, that is the bulk of it. I put a link for the PR and I put a link for the HIP. Again, open to any change, review. We work closely with George on this, and he made some very valuable suggestion that we implemented in the HIP, and yeah, let me know what you guys.
Where I got to for people's clarification is I would like someone just to have a look at the file formats for excluding the lint rules to make sure that we're not missing anything obvious. Otherwise, at least to me, since I reviewed it, everything else looks fairly solid in the HIP. There's probably one other thing, you know, that we could consider at this point, and we originally excluded adding like identifiers to the lint rules because that would have been a difficult change for Helm 3. I think this would be quite a simple addition for Helm 4, so we should probably reconsider that point.
Absolutely.
I do like the idea of identifiers. So for Helm 4, I'd love to get them in.
Should we convert to the HIP to Helm 4 HIP rather than leave it in Helm 3?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's unfortunately missed the bus for Helm 3. Sorry. Yeah.
Don't worry. Thank you very much. Yeah, we will start working on it and we will present it in another developer meeting. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate.
Thank you. Right. So my agenda, I have the last two HIP review items. I'll go quickly. So I have server-side apply. I've got one approval. If someone else could give another approval, that'd be awesome. I think Matt's HIPs need approvals from 2 maintainers, which excludes myself since I wrote it.
Yeah, let me find that. I'll look at it. Is it? That's yours. Okay.
And an update, Scott's not here. He's been kind of driving the HIP verbiage, but the plugin HIP, I think we are getting fairly close. I don't know if it's been updated, but to keep people up to date, we're going to mostly remove the notion of chart plugins from this version of the HIP and write another HIP for chart plugins once we have implemented the WASM plugin system. Would be the too lazy didn't read version of the changes to come.
Can you give a quick explanation of that? Scott told me at KubeCon, but just like I had this realization, but then he didn't really explain it. Yeah.
So the HIP is going to focus on implementing WASM plugins for Helm, which are basically superseding the existing plugin system, and won't go really beyond doing what existing plugins can do today, except
which is basically add commands and
downloaders. Okay. And we could go further and add more CLI hooks. The plugin, it will define the way to do this. I don't know how far we'll get. Once we are happy with WASM in this form. I think a draft hit will be spun directly out of this one for supporting plugins and charts. And once we have chart plugins, we can support additional renders and things like that. Sorry, someone's going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one of those places where you don't want to boil the ocean. The original form included so much. If we can do WASM plugins in their current form, and we can even have a good hook-in mechanism to do more WASM plugins, take something like the post renderer and turn that into a plugin, and have a WASM plugin there. Once you've got some hooks in like that, then that gives us the ability to expand on that internally, and knowing how to do WASM will tell us what we can do with charts, and then we can do follow-ups. But trying to do everything up front before we've even experimented, I think that's a boil in the ocean, and it's probably too much and we get caught there. We need a slice that can be accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks. I just wanted to hear it.
I'm a little bit confused on how this relates to WebAssembly, but I think I might have just missed something from this hip.
The concept is to use WebAssembly as the compiled artifact as a plugin.
It's the runtime
Okay.
mechanism.
Yeah.
I did a little joke thing for Scott where I compiled a stripped down version of Helm in WebAssembly so that I could make a silly web page that uses Helm to render part of it. So I played around a little bit with it, but I don't know much about WebAssembly aside from that.
Yeah, and one of the problems we run into with plugins is you write a plugin and you do it in any language. What system is it going to run on? Right?
Yeah.
If I write it in shell script, that doesn't even mean it's going to translate between a Linux distribution and say Mac OS, because there might be some differences between the systems, one being POSIX and the other being Linux. And I've run into that personally. Windows is out of luck then too. But if you can do some of this stuff with WebAssembly, then that makes a big difference.
Yeah, but WebAssembly is, I mean, we got to get specific there because it's a bit fractured at the moment as well, right? I mean, a little bit. So.
Absolutely. And so we've got to figure this out. And so whoever wants to chase after that will get an opportunity to try to solve for that.
Matt, you actually brought up on, what is it? XDism is the engine that Scott and George kind of chose, but I kind of agreed with you that if it's, it's a startup company, right? Wasn't that your point?
Yeah, so my point with their stuff is, Helm Enterprise, long form kind of thing. Helm is meant to be around a very long time. Big business depends on it. Picking up some features from a startup that is only available from a startup that may be gone in a year is a high risk maneuver. And that's not something that we normally try to do. We might try to put a facade or the adapter pattern in front of a WebAssembly engine in pure Go. And that way, if we need to later, we can actually replace that component without it affecting our APIs. But getting into the intricate features that are available out of something from a VC-funded startup is high risk, because if they pivot or they go out of business, then we have to fork and maintain that for the life of Helm 4 and deal with backwards compatibility and whatever we're going to do in Helm 5. And that's a significant possible workload on us as a risk mitigation. And that is something you don't tend to want to do unless you're another startup who can pivot quickly, and we can't.
So let's both as the moderator and as someone who has a lot of answers to this kind of question, but we don't have time to to go into it. The short version is that you do need a way to bridge into WASM. XDism fills that bridge, particularly with all the different languages out there. If XDism did go out of business, we would be able to freeze, and I think it would be low maintenance. Wouldn't get new features, but it wouldn't. But it would be solid for what our purposes are. But let's.
And if they pivot, then we can't pivot without breaking APIs, but a startup can. There's a lot of high risk there. We can talk about that at another point, but this is a risk mitigation thing, and we have to think about the what happens if a startup does what many startups do and the impact on us.
Yeah, sorry, I started going into the details. I shouldn't have. I do have answers though. So, but let's, yeah, different time. Let's move on to the final items on the call. Shout outs. Thanks, Matt, for producing the patch release and chasing down those CVs. Everybody will be appreciative for more security. Sorry, it's not choosing the right words, but yeah, the community is definitely appreciative to get these things released and keep moving. I don't know if there's any social media amplification. I think we've just gone through KubeCon, so we're fairly social media that probably.
I can do a tweet for the latest release.
Awesome, thank you. So assignments for the next call. Who would like to volunteer for moderator, notes, issue triage, peer review?
I can be moderator.
I'll do peer review and issue triage.
You can put me down for PRs. I'm doing it now.
You should triage for me.
Okay.
I don't mind taking notes again, but Karen, like, did I mess up the notes? It's my first time. They're all kind of a little wonk.
Oh, I mean, I think they're fine. Yeah.
Okay. I know that you take notes a lot, so I think.
Right.
Like, should they be italic maybe? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'll look at the existing notes and figure it out.
Just as long as people can
Yeah.
roughly determine what we discussed. Doesn't have to be perfect, of course.
All
right, before I close us off, is there any final thoughts? Anything? All right.
If I may, there's something for me. This is Radwan from KubeCon. As I said, I'd like to contribute, but I'm right now learning Golang and testing mostly. And yeah, well, I'm not really sure where to start. So if anybody has some work,
documentation, tests.
if somebody has some work they can dump on me, I'd gladly take it just to get a feel for it and then try to help out as much as possible.
So you're pinging the Helm dev channel. One suggestion would be to run go test with coverage enabled and then try and spot some missing coverage and then add tests to get some coverage. That'd be like an easy way to fit into the existing ecosystem.
Okay. I'll try to do that and then I'll write on the channel if something comes up.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Appreciate everyone. Speak next week. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.